Welcome to the notes on solving absolute value equations. By the end of this lesson, you will be able to solve equations that have an absolute value symbol in them. So remember, absolute value is the distance from zero. Distance from zero. I'm going to put an AP there for always positive. Okay, distance is always positive. No such thing as negative distance. We've talked about it before. And remember, since this is our number line here with zero in the middle, we've got our positive numbers to the right, and we've got our negative numbers to the left. So a distance, you can go two directions from zero. So if we look at 3, this has a distance from 0, 1, 2, 3, and so does negative 3, also has a distance of 1, 2, 3. So for these absolute value equations, we're going to have two answers. That's really important, okay, because on the number line, you can go two directions. So now let's take a look at some examples. All right, first one, 5x plus 3 equals 7. Well, our first step is going to be to isolate that absolute value sign. We don't want anything on that side of the equation other than our absolute value symbol, which is the case. There's nothing else over there. So once we do that, we need to rewrite two equations because there's going to be two answers. And here's how we're going to write it. We're going to make one equation exactly the same. So I'm just literally going to rewrite it without the absolute value symbol. So 5x3 equals 7. And the second equation I'm going to write as 5x plus 3. We're going to keep that exactly the same. But this time I'm going to put equal, and I'm going to put the opposite of whatever's here. So this is going to be negative 7. Once we've done that, now it's really easy. We're just going to solve two equations to get our two answers. We're going to subtract 3 from each side. Subtract 3 here, subtract 3. So we're going to get 5x equals 7 minus 3 is 4. And then we're going to divide by 5. Divide by 5. So one answer is going to be x equals 4 over 5. That doesn't reduce. All right. Our second answer is actually going to be the same steps. We're going to subtract 3, and we're going to divide by 5. So we're going to get 5x equals, now negative 7 minus 3 is negative 10. Divide by 5. So this time, x is going to equal negative 10 divided by 5 is going to be negative 2. So we could have two answers, x equals 4/5 or x equals 2. Okay, let's take a look at a couple more examples. In this example, you can see that the absolute value sign is not isolated. We have this plus 5 here that we don't want. So we've got it, before we can rewrite our two equations, we've got to get the absolute value symbol by itself. So the first thing I need to do is subtract that 5. Subtract 5. So when I rewrite that now, I'm going to have absolute value of 2x, I'll write it right here, absolute value of 2x equals 7 minus 5, which is 2. Now that I have the absolute value symbol isolated, there's nothing else on that side of the equation, I can rewrite my two equations. So here they are. Here's the first equation. Whatever's inside the absolute value, we just rewrite. We write it exactly the same. Now this time, we're going to write it, or we're going to have 2x equals the opposite of whatever we have right here. That's positive 2, so this time it's going to equal negative 2. And then we just solve them. So this one that shows you an example, we're going to divide by 2, same steps on each side. X equals 1. We come over here, divide by 2, but now over here, x is going to equal negative 1, because negative divided by positive is a negative. So those are our two choices. Little different. We had that added step of isolating the absolute value sign first. Now, last one. Oh man, fractions looks complicated, but here's something you got to be careful of. If you ever get the absolute value sign isolated, meaning there's nothing else outside of it. There's a fraction inside, but nothing else outside the absolute value sign, and it equals a negative. So this is telling us a distance from 0 is negative. A distance can never be negative. So if you get to this point, you're done. You can literally just write no solution, because it's impossible to have an absolute value that is a negative, because its distance cannot be negative, or you can just write. So there you have our lesson on solving absolute value equations. You need to rewrite two equations to get your two answers for each direction on the number line.